Yeah, so essentially, my path actually began in print design. I originally did like print-based course at university, which is a bit strange for someone coming into digital, but I guess I'm quite old now, so maybe not so strange. But I was very lucky in my first job where I was doing primarily print design, but I did a bit of Flash, and I was very lucky to work with a couple of guys like Paul Lewis, who's now at Google Chrome, and also Tom Knowles, who went on to work at Phi. And what they did in that division was they took print designers who would do visuals for digital, but they'd get them to do code from the ground up. And I think at the time that was a really, really odd thing. And that led you to be able to work with developers when you worked on digital projects so closely, to the point of not just saying, oh, can we direct this in a certain way, or can we do this, but actually, telling them direct code things that could immediately make sense to them, working closely, and it built a kind of relationship that isn't so much like designer telling developer what to do, but actually working together. And I think that's maybe an anomaly for the time that it was. It's much more normal now, I think. So then from that, you kind of get to learn code so closely. And then kind of from there, decided to, come to Amsterdam from up in northern England, which again is quite an odd thing for an Englishman. We don't like to move away very much. But from there, kind of worked at Resn and Media Monks, which were really great experiences. But I constantly wanted to get more into code as a full package. So from there, I kind of released a project last year called In Pieces, which kind of finally convinced me that there's something to this fusion of design and development in one package. In so much that you, as one guy, maybe it's limiting in some ways, but also you get to be able to create some sort of real fusion in a project. And for clients, it's quite a strange thing. You get to mix like ideas from the print side originally, and the visual side, but also like mixing all the code. It comes over as one complete project, I think. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do now at the moment as a freelancer. Kind of, I design and build an entire project, and I think it's maybe an anomaly of what people are doing. Of course, there's guys doing it, but I think it kind of says something about coming from the print side, and it's all kind of led to one thing in a way. When it comes to relating it back to the print side, I think that one analogy I like to use when I'm having drinks with friends is that if you're a good print designer, or just any kind of like physical designer, you get a feel of like how paper feels, how stock feels, not how it touches. I think that to me is like interactions, rollovers, what happens when you click a button, even on mobile, things like that. Things that react to what you're doing, rather than just here's this thing that looks, here's the thing that animates. I think that relates in quite a nice way. I mean, first of all, it kind of came at a really strange moment actually. As I was having a conversation with a friend, I genuinely cried. it was very strange. But also, it's very odd to me because when starting up, like I said before, I worked with Paul Lewis, who's now at Chrome, and Tom Knowles in that company who were doing print design. And I remember at the time they won, no offense, but an FWA. And at the time, this was a long time ago, that was like, oof, you wanted that to be, that was like your career vision. Wow, win something like that, an FWA or award someday, And then you get it, you start getting a few, and that feeling is like unbelievable at first. And now, unfortunately, it's kind of a really dark thing. If a project doesn't get an award, it kind of feels like a failure almost, which is kind of sad. But then, to win Site of the Month was just unbelievable. It was kind of the dream, the dream of why you try and work and do good jobs at places like Media Monks and Resn and the top production agencies in the world. That's what you want to aim for when you work at companies like that. And to be on a Site of the Month was just unbelievable. And then Experimental Site of the Year, you don't even dream of it. It's that bizarre as a thing. So when it comes, it's just a complete shock. I know, and I knew beforehand it was like in the running. I didn't honestly think it had a chance. And also, of course, the fact that it was, I don't mean to disregard projects that you do as part of a team. Of course, they're very important things. But when it's your own kind of baby, the feeling is just unbelievable. It's really hard to explain. I remember when it first was released, and of course, winning an award like this is just unbelievable, but equally when it was first released and it was doing well, getting on tweets and stuff, it's just the release was unbelievable. It's hard to explain. Of course, I could go into lots and lots of details, but honestly, the biggest overalling thing that you could say is that because the technology was so experimental, and also I was using it in a way that isn't meant to be used. It's kind of like hijacking something it's not meant to be used for. There was no answers to anything I had a problem with. So any time I had a problem like Safari blinking, screen going black, it's just, just figure it out. Stack Overflow's got nothing, It's so challenges like that came over and over again. I had this really odd thing. It wasn't like the most challenging, but I had to completely unmake the entire thing. Safari had this thing where it won't animate the individual polygons if you use data attributes to change the states. I had to use classes, which I don't like to do. Data attributes are good because you only got one at a time of one thing. That was a really weird thing. It still, to me, doesn't make any sense, but it's just specifically with the polygons. Sorry, out Safari. I don't know. There was just multiple things like that. I mean, there was a massive thing where the screen would go completely black and things. It's why actually when you resize the screen, it says recreating polygons, because it's hiding the fact that actually underneath the surface everything's kind of going black. So strange things. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite maybe strange with this. Obviously, there's loads and loads of things that you can read and do that are good for processing things. My process is kind of the same every time. Where I tend to get a similar kind of project now, which is nice, because I always wanted this kind of project where we want something that it does this, but we want it to be experimental. We want it to be groundbreaking in some way, and seem seem ultra fresh. And the way to do that always for me is some sort of new, utilization of new technology. It's not about using the technology, it's about using something that just hasn't been used in a certain way for some reason. Why? Because I think that you always get a visually and aesthetically, environmentally different feel to what's been done before by using that approach. So always it's, I get a brief and then I'll just sketch for 2 days. Just sketch ideas, but when I'm sketching, I'm not sketching layouts. I'm sketching like little brainstorms of, okay, there's this tech, how can we utilize that? For example, in a recent project, I'm really into blend modes at the moment. So it's always like the thing that's kind of there and has been for maybe a year or roundabouts, but kind of hasn't been used for. Okay, so blend modes, for example, they'll be used right now for, let's put a circle over the top of an image and have that red and it kind of bleeds the color through. Well, that's cool. But blend modes can be used in really odd ways. Like you can use it for a video that's black and white, and if you have something that's happening, I'm not going to go into details of the project, but like if you have black in the video that does something and then screen that, what happens is black is seen as see-through. So you can do this kind of unmasking feeling by using blend modes. It's quite an anomaly. It's going to look visually new. It's going to have an impact, and it uses a new technology. And I guess that's always at the core of the start of a project. And then it's a case of kind of hoping that it works. Yeah, I mean, for me at the moment, anything that involves masking, I think that masking is, again, I bring it back to the print side, it's just a visual technique that just works, it's just awesome. And I think obviously we've had it for a little while with SVG, and obviously the other hardcore technologies like Canvas and stuff have always been able to do that, but as things become more available in CSS-based approaches, I always think that's when stuff becomes a bit more mainstream, because it becomes easier, And anything that involves masking is just going to be awesome, but it's kind of hard to say, because it's always, for me, the new techs in stuff like CSS, for me, that have been around for about a year, where they start to be in everything but IE. It's fine if it's in just Chrome and Safari, but if it's been there for about a year, then it's those kind of things. I'm trying to think of ones that aren't just blend modes. But that kind of stuff. Probably dead, actually. No, my health is just awful. I honestly don't know, because if I look back at, it's a good thing. That's a good thing. If I look back at 5 years ago, everything's changed. I was just a guy in England, kind of getting by on a job. It's fine. It's nice. and now everything's kind of completely different. Everything's a bit chaotic. I live in a city I don't really know that well, and so 5 years. Yeah, I've always wanted to own an agency. I've always wanted to build an agency, and I guess that the current path of becoming freelance in the last year. When you go freelance, it's always scary. You know, there's loads of success stories and stuff, but it's scary because like once the paycheck is not coming in per month, that is a scary thing. And once you get over that, you do start to feel I might be building towards actually owning a place here. You know, the thing for me is kind of finding some sort of like vision that's unique. I don't want to just make an agency that's just a normal thing. You want it to be a unique entity of its own right. And then, well, you need to find not just people but partners to be able to start that with. So I guess maybe waiting for that. But aside from that, nothing, dead.